Rebecca.
Hi, welcome everyone. Going to give it just another minute to let everybody get admitted and get situated. Look at all those faces. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to CTN's webinar on culturally inclusive digital equity curriculum. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Happy Leap Day also. I don't know if that's like the right way to say it. I was looking it up this morning. Do we say Happy Leap Year? But I guess today is technically Leap Day. So happy Leap Day. What a great way for us to spend it today. My name is Becca Wright. I want to share my screen with you very briefly as we get situated, as we get comfortable, maybe grab your lunch. If you're using this as a true lunch and learn, please remember to use the chat for questions and comments. Our co-host today, Josie Boyle, will be sprinkling very good resources in the chat as we go. But if you already have something on your mind about incorporating cultural awareness and cultural respect into curriculum, please go ahead and put those questions in the chat, and then we will bring them up to the panel at that time. So let me share my screen.
Where to go?
Way out. Something like that.
Okay, so here is our agenda for today. We've already done the welcome. I'm going to give us just a little bit of context, and then we're going to have a special introduction and remarks from our capacity building director, Skye Downing. We will then move right into a panel of staff that we have here at CTN who work a lot with different cultures and with developing curriculum for those cultures. After the panel gives their introductions, we'll do Q&A, and stick around for the end because we're giving away courses. We're giving away adult learning principles, and that is a $100 value. So please stay with us and participate until the end. This is our CTN capacity building team. You'll hear from our Director of Programs and Partnerships, Skye Downing, here in just a minute. The co-hosts today is our Digital Equity Curriculum Manager, Josie Boyle, and I'm Becca. I am the LIFT Administrative Manager for our team. The panel members that you will hear from are all program managers or senior program managers here with extensive instructive experience. 2 out of the 3, maybe even 3 out of the 3 are bilingual. I should have checked on all 3. I know them, but we speak together in English, so I didn't check that part out. So these are the speakers, and they will tell you more about themselves here in just a couple of minutes. This is probably familiar to all of you, especially if you work in education or if you've had, college culture classes. Hammond's culture tree is a wonderful illustration of the complexity of culture. And I know that you can't see it super clearly on this slide, but you get the idea. And many of us are familiar with this. We could spend every day talking about different components of cultures. So condensing it into a 1-hour panel discussion will, of course, not touch on everything that's important. But one thing that is useful about this illustration is that it shows that very broadly speaking, we all operate within our culture in these ways. The surface, of course, are the things that are very easily observable. What do we look like? How do we dress? How do we speak? What do we eat? The shallow level is not quite as easily observable. It's concepts of time, it's how we interact with others, like like making eye contact or not, or showing up on time or not. Shallow is more how we interact with our environment and our place in it. And then the deep part of culture gets into those things that are subconscious, unconscious, or at least very deep. What our assumptions are, what our biases are, what our very deep belief systems are. And you know what's coming, right? At least in our current cultural moment, these things are being talked about, particularly in the conversations that we find ourselves in, those of us here on the call. When you start to pile on historical inequities, systemic bias, systemic racism, all of the isms, as well as lack of access to fill in the blank. When you pile those things onto culture as well, it gets more and more and more complex. So as we develop our programmatic initiatives, as we do outreach for our programs, and particularly as we develop our programs, what are some of the ways that we can practically incorporate respect and sensitivity and just an awareness of the cultures that we work with in a way that's really effective for what we're wanting them to learn as far as digital navigation and digital skills. At CTN, broadly speaking, pretty much at that surface level, we offer our materials in 8 languages. It's actually 8+, but we can readily offer our materials in 8 languages. Our translation services are provided by people who belong to that specific culture or have primary involvement with it and primarily speak that language. We work with navigators who are, and our instructors, of course, who are trusted community members and who can therefore align instructive techniques with the beliefs and the value systems of those communities. And perhaps at the shallow level of the tree, CTN is dedicated to promoting a work environment that does recognize culture and a respect for culture as of primary importance. So with that, I'd like to introduce the head of our capacity building branch, also the director of programs and partnership, and my boss, who fosters a work environment that relates directly to this issue. And so I would like to turn it over to Skye Downing. Skye, I will control the slides. So just tell me when you want to advance. And everyone, please welcome Skye Downing.
Thank you so much, Becca. Hi, everyone. I am going to be as brief as possible with this introduction. We have some incredible subject matter experts here on this call to speak with you, here to speak with you today. And so I don't want to be taking up too much of that valuable time. But what I do want to say is hello. It is always such a pleasure to share space with all of you. I see a lot of familiar faces. We are so excited. We have over 220 people registered for this call today. This is the second in our series of monthly webinar calls, and that is just an incredible outcome. So happy to see it and so happy to see all of you here. Also seeing a lot of familiar faces, partners, former partners, present partners, funders, seeing folks that were on a webinar that I presented on yesterday, folks from the World Education Group, and yeah, just this is very exciting. So thank you all for being here. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. My name is Skye Downing, as Becca said, she, her pronouns, and I am the Digital Equity Programs and Partnership Director for CTN, as mentioned. I oversee all the development, deployment, and maintenance of our capacity building programs and the initiatives that are led by our organization. And I'm super proud to lead an incredible team of digital equity rock stars who work together to create the culturally proficient training and curriculum that we'll be speaking to today. And as many of you know, we offer content in the form of multilingual curriculum, e-learning opportunities, regionally appropriate resources, direct services, and capacity building training. And of course, this newly launched webinar series on topics such as culturally inclusive digital equity curriculum. And in our work, we consistently speak to the importance and the power of meeting people where they are at. So on a very basic level, I think this, we all have an understanding of what that means. We're showing up, we're showing up, we're ready to help, right? But on a deeper level, what that looks like is that the teacher must remain the student. So we must go into all of our interactions with our clients open to learning about them and about what their true needs are so that we can best assist them and ultimately empower them to successfully use the internet, achieve connectivity, and to do so in a dignified and respectful manner. You'll hear us say in our presentations that, and Sabrina, I'm not sure if it was you or Becca that coined this phrase, but that a culturally inclusive approach to digital inclusion education is not a nice to have, but it is a must have. And this is absolutely true. So very much look forward to more deeply diving into this with you today. And I think just in an effort to just really impress upon the group here the importance of creating a space that's psychologically safe for those that we train, being inclusive, creating access points, really requires us to dive very deeply into the work that we do. It is not just presenting a training that is based on what we think that our clients need. We truly have to needs assess the partners. We then need the partners to needs assess their communities. And then we all work together to adapt training with people who are boots on the ground in the communities that have the understanding of what the need is. We create those learning opportunities together. Yesterday, I shared words from Dr. Benjamin Danielson on the World Education Call that there is no equity without dignity, and that the bridge between harm and hope is dignity. So the people that we serve have experienced this systemic harm, discrimination based upon their race, their gender, their financial status, the level of education they've received, their age, and so many other indignities. Our engagement with them is relational. It is not transactional. And though the data is critical, data that we collect in our daily operations to meeting our community's needs, our clients are not numbers, they're humans. So we need to invest in their overall empowerment. So that said, I'm going to leave it at that and turn it over to this incredible team to do what they do best, because again, they are the experts on the culturally inclusive curriculum. And again, we thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Skye. Much appreciated. So I will turn it over to the panel. Our members who are speaking today are Sabrina Tam, Steph Miner, and Audrey Potts. And what we'd like to do is make space to let them give you their introduction and their background, and then we will open it up for questions. So I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen because we don't need to look at slides anymore. We can look at the beautiful faces here. And with that, Sabrina, and then Steph, and then Audrey, please.
Thank you, Becca. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay, good. 大家好，我姓譚嘅，英文名係 Sabrina。我喺香港出世同埋長大嘅，嚟咗美國已經30年啦。So hello everyone, my name is Sabrina Tam, she, her pronouns, and I just did my greeting in Cantonese, which is my mother tongue. I was born and raised in Hong Kong. I first came to the US 30 years ago as a cultural exchange student for my last year of high school. And I spent that year living with an American family in Arkansas. And then I pursued my higher education in the Bay Area and eventually my graduate degree in South Carolina. Before joining CTN, I have only worked in the private sector, not nonprofits. I was a project manager for a medical market research company for 10 years. I also worked a couple of years in an advertising agency, a couple of years at a bank doing customer service, which may seem totally random or unrelated. But no, when I looking back at like all my previous jobs, I have always been involved in multi-countries, multilingual projects. And here at CTN, I'm very happy that I can apply my skills and my experience to serve our community that has such a rich mix of cultures, a wide range of age groups, and different skills, experience with technology. And when I first joined CTN as a part-time instructor, and now I am a senior program manager working full-time, I manage programs that offer in-person group training, but I'm also involved in designing and developing virtual programs that could be one-on-ones or in groups and different culture groups. And I still teach a lot. I work directly a lot with our clients on a regular basis, which I enjoyed very much. And to me, culturally inclusive education goes way beyond simple translation. It is curriculum design. It is what you're going to teach and how you're going to teach the different topics. I'll just leave it at that for now. But thank you so much for having me. I'll pass it to Steph.
Thank you, Sabrina, and greetings, everyone. I'm Steph Miner, he, him pronouns, and I moved to San Francisco by way of Ecuador, way back in 2019. And pretty much I joined the digital equity movement, or CTN, roughly 3 weeks prior to the pandemic, when I realized how great the digital divide was when I was serving in Peace Corps in Ecuador. Internet connectivity was sparse, like in between different types of communities and locations. And it was just one of the main things I had to like overcome, or we had to overcome to accomplish my programs. As a senior program manager with CTN, I support local senior centers and technology labs to help them make sure that their supported older adults and persons with disabilities are able to access low-cost devices, tutoring on how to use those devices, tech support, as well as internet connectivity. I also cultivate and manage relationships with prospective partner agencies to help them with their staff capacity and training needs. And I'm also wearing multiple hats on the steering committees of both the Coalition of Agencies Serving the Elderly, also known as CASE, as well as SF Tech Council, which are nonprofit consortiums geared towards supporting staff of different agencies and closing the digital gap and expanding essential resources and services throughout the city. And I will pass it over to Audrey.
Audrey, you're muted. There you go.
Muchas gracias. Hola, me llamo Audrey Potts Vélez, soy gerente de programas digitales para CTN y estoy encantada de estar con todos ustedes hoy para hablar sobre la inclusión cultural y alfabetización digital para nuestras comunidades. And for those who do not speak Spanish, hello, my name is Audrey Potts Velez. I'm a digital equity program manager at CTN. I'm happy to be here with all of you today to talk about cultural inclusion and digital literacy for our communities. A little bit about myself and my background. I'm going to go eons ago. First off, I want to say I'm Bolivian American from California, currently living in San Francisco, bilingual. I also grew up in my earlier years in the Caribbean, in Santo Domingo, where I learned the art of Latin dance, something near and dear to me, my heart, merengue, salsa, samba dancing, whatever dances out there, believe me, I learned it. This allowed me to interact with many different cultures, with various folklores and carnavales from Bolivia to Brazil. My family and I traveled extensively throughout South America growing up, as I have family scattered throughout the continent. I also attended middle school at American Corporative School, which is an international school in Bolivia for children within the diplomatic arena from all over the globe. So there I was exposed to many different cultures and different traditions. But most of all, what impacted me the most was being exposed to the economic impacts of the third world countries. And it has been something that's always concerned me, and is the reason why I have always wanted to help struggling Latino communities, which I do today. I did receive my BA at a San Francisco State University here in San Francisco. Go Gators. Although we do not have Gators here, I've been told. And so a little bit more about my professional background. I started in banking and mortgages and community development, exclusively servicing the Latino communities, which allowed me to work on projects like Fruitvale Village with the Unity Council, focusing on neighborhood development throughout the East Bay. I later joined a global learning development company as a training coordinator, where I began my journey in tech and corporate event management. And then the pandemic happened. And as most of you know or have experienced, a lot of us had, halted completely with our careers or jobs. And so I decided to enter the nonprofit sector to be of service and to assist the vulnerable aging community, to help seniors learn how to get in touch with their loved ones digitally and to help combat their isolation, which honestly has been very fulfilling work for me. So with that said, how did I start with CTN? Well, again, the pandemic. I was introduced to CTN via Train the Trainer program, where I was where I was contracted with the Episcopal Community Services, which is one of our partners that provides digital literacy training for senior communities. So when my contract was nearing completion, I reached out to Sabrina, who was my contact and assisted me with the Train the Trainer program. And when I reached out to her, I let her know I was interested in a position that had opened up. And, I've been with the organization ever since. So I started as a coordinator and instructor, and now I'm a program manager under Sabrina as well as Stefan. So I work on both of their programs. Some of the programs that we work with, or that I work with, are the CPUC programs. I've worked with MOHCD with Stefan, and now Access to Technology program in the East Bay for Contra Costa County, as well as virtual and in-person cohorts within San Francisco. So what does culturally inclusive means to the work that I do? I'm going to be brief since we've already kind of dove into it with Stefan and Sabrina, but as a digital equity program manager in San Francisco, being culturally inclusive in my work means actively acknowledging, respecting, and valuing the diverse cultural backgrounds, perspective, and the needs of our communities that we serve. So I know that we mentioned some senior communities. We do work with low-income housing, but we also work with families. So which is near and dear to my heart, some of the programs that I've worked with, and we will talk a little bit more about some of the resources that I've been able to share with my family and the communities within the Latin community. Thank you.
Thank you all. That was a very great overview of some of our staff. I'd like to turn it over now to Josie for the Q&A, and please do keep the chat going. If it helps to just raise your hand, we'll try to manage that as well, but perhaps with this level of participants, it might be easier to chat. But there's no question that's too big or too small. And Josie, with that, I'll turn it over to you for Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Becca, and thank you everyone for being here today. So far, I haven't seen any questions come through the chat. So as we keep going, think of any questions you've had from your work in your communities, or if you have specific questions for working with a certain community or a certain language group, we might not have the answer, but we can probably connect you with someone. So starting out, I have a question for Sabrina. Working with seniors, working with the Chinese language community, how have you helped these non-English speakers to create secure passwords? In my background too, as a digital literacy instructor, this is a common problem we run into with people struggling to create accounts, to remember passwords. So do you have any tips on that, Sabrina?
Yes, this is a very common question for our learners who are monolingual. They don't speak English, or they speak very, very limited English. The only English word that they may know may be the name, or yes or no. Very, very simple words that we teach them not to use them as passwords. So when we teach the lesson about secure password, we oftentimes help them think of a password that is composed of more numbers and then maybe just a couple of alphabets or letters. So instead of like using English words, they can definitely use a long number to compensate for like to make sure that they have the length of the password is requirement is fulfilled. So that was one way to go around it. Another way, if depending on the language, so it's not only just Chinese, but maybe in Spanish or in Russian or in other languages, if their language have the word like that they can spell in their own language, they can definitely use that too. Or maybe in Korean or Japanese that they can use those words. But for Chinese in particular, because we write characters, we don't write in the letters in the alphabet. That's how I usually, tell my learners they can think of it as long numbers, and then just add a symbol, add a couple alphabets that's meaningful to them, to make it like a strong password. That would be my tips.
Mhm. Thank you, Sabrina. I've worked with the Russian-speaking community in the past, and we often have that issue too, that they want to come up with a password in Russian, but of course that's written in Cyrillic, so it can be challenging to remember how they spelled something in English letters. Okay, we have a question from Sylvia. Skye mentioned assessment of partners. Is there a standard set of questions that planning teams should ask as they enter this topic? Skye, would you like to speak to that a little bit more? Needs assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a little bit of a two-prong answer or two-part answer. We have two different ways of needs assessing. So what I mentioned was that, yes, we needs assess our partners, but as we're entering into a partnership with them. A lot of times our partners will come to us and some with a very distinct idea of what they need from us, some with some idea of what they need, and some with no idea, or sometimes potentially an idea that is maybe the priorities are just a little bit out of balance, where we understand from our years of experience that actually we need to take these steps first before we prioritize these activities. So that is an area where we help and support and provide support and resources. So we do have a needs assessment that we are happy to share out, a template that we're happy to share out with you all, that is a basic needs assessment, a set of questions that we use to understand the needs of the community. And then we have a tool that we actually custom built that works internally to identify the products that the training tools, if you will, that best suit our partners' needs. So when we needs assess our partners, we're looking at the ways that we can instantly help them. Not just ways that we can like plan to help in the future, but what active tools, ready-made solutions do we have currently to assist you in your daily service delivery? So that diagnostic needs assessment tool, happy to talk through it with you, Sylvia, if you'd like to, or with anyone offline. But it is actually customized to our product, our training toolkit, if you will. And so it's a weighted assessment solution. So we get a numerical value on the data sets, and then we can see kind of what the most critical needs are of the agency based upon their responses. And then that way we can go into a conversation to say, here's our suggested pathway to solve for your needs, and we can work to create a customized training approach or curriculum approach for those partners. Does that answer your question, Sylvia?
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And just to be clear as well, you're saying that it's customized, so it's not something that would be shared in the follow-up materials.
Our partner needs assessment, I don't know that we would be happy to share it with you, but I don't know how helpful it would be, because it does actually drive us into like our catalog of training tools. However, I mean, I'm happy to share it with you so you can see the kinds of questions that we ask. And I'm happy to go through the mapping of it so that you understand what we're gleaning from those responses. Normally we wouldn't necessarily, we wouldn't publish it publicly because it is customized, but yes, I'm happy to look at it with you if you'd like me to. And then the basic needs assessment, we're happy to share out with you as a resource for clients.
Thank you, Skye. Moving on to the next question from Lisbeth. This is a good question, asking if we have experience with communities from the Middle East and Africa. In my time at CTN, I'm not aware of any. Sabrina, you've been here the longest.
Yeah, I remember we used to have a staff who speak Persian and as well as Farsi, but that's a while back. And recently, I taught classes at a low-income housing in Dublin that has a large population of Middle East people from Middle East, and they do speak. A lot of them do speak a little bit English. So I first there taught a group in English, and then I quickly recruit one of my students to become my teacher assistant, and therefore we were able to tailor the curriculum, change the materials a little bit, and then use it to teach the broader group that English is not as good. So this was our workaround. If you don't have a staff or volunteer, find the students who are bilingual and have them be your ambassador or teacher assistant, and so that you can work with that community. Of course, always if it's better if you can have an instructor or a trainer that speak the language, but sometimes it's just not possible, right? And that would be a good workaround. I recommend.
Awesome. Thank you, Sabrina. A really good question from Nate, who's asking, for some examples of how we take different approaches to teach the same content, but to make it culturally relevant to different groups. Opening this up to anyone on the panel who'd like to speak to this.
I can go first,
Yeah.
and then maybe
Mhm.
Audrey and Steph can add to it.
Okay.
The one example that I would like to give is email. For our English-speaking learners, a lot of them use email or at least know what it is. But for me, for when I teach my Chinese community, they may have heard of email, but most of them have not used it before, and they don't see the need of using email because their communication apps that they use are either WeChat or WhatsApp, and they don't find it necessary to learn email. So instead of going straight into teaching them about email, we oftentimes have to prep them, like explain to the group, why is it important for you to learn email, even though like you may not use it for your day-to-day. So we go into the importance of having an email account. That's how you can maybe apply for benefits or apply for housing, apply for your Medicare. You always have to have an email account. So yeah, we start by explaining the importance for this group if they're not very familiar with email, and then they will be more open to learn actually how to use email, creating an email account. That would be my approach. I don't know, Audrey, you have anything to add for maybe a Spanish-speaking community?
Yes, hi. How to teach the same content but make it culturally relevant to different groups. Well, within my Latino communities, and I do also work with other communities other than Latino, so I'm not all focused on one community here. That's inclusively throughout all the communities. But when approaching a new group like a basics class, we do start out with email is the top priority for our beginners, because again, without that email address, with the Google apps that we use, all the Google apps that we provide, they're free for our learners. They have a difficult time navigating through the different apps that are provided through once they have created a Gmail account. It opens a world to other activities in their lives. For instance, with an email address, they can now download different apps through the Play Store, which is really beneficial for every language, every culture that we work with. So in my Latin group, we download Univision, some of the Latin news, right? Or particular movies. There are different Telemundo. So, whatever group that we're working with, we will share the particular media apps that they need. But again, I have to emphasize, like Sabrina, creating an email address is key, and then making sure that their passwords are secure. So with the password security lessons that we teach, we also give students the opportunity to practice through different websites. We have different resources to test the strength of their password, right? And give them tips on how to remember, when we're working with a senior community, where to write them down, how to keep your passwords safe, and so on. So yeah, we use all of those apps frequently, and I have many mission moments of that are wonderful after we have graduating classes where I get a message saying, "Thank you so much for what you taught us. I've now been able to apply for San Francisco City College, or I'm taking classes at San Francisco State now. I mean, that just warms my heart to see across the board different cultures learning the same thing. So thank you.
We also found that it's very important to be inclusive whenever you're communicating and engaging with those that you're supporting. For example, when we have our virtual Q&A sessions, we found that it's very much needed and helpful that we communicate with specific community members who may be more familiar with WhatsApp, and also with those who are more familiar with using WeChat. And there's other ways that we can communicate with people, whether it be phone, just making sure that they are best able to not only get online to attend our Q&A sessions, but also that they're able to communicate with one another through a group setting. So yeah, making sure that being inclusive whenever you're communicating with those you're supporting is very much needed.
And I would add to that, just with my work with senior Russian speakers, I found sometimes it is just adapting the content to make more sense to them and to be socially relevant. So for example, if I'm teaching Google search, I might say, let's practice searching what time it is in your home city, really practical skills. Or if it's Google Maps, I might say, okay, I want you to search for your old address where you grew up, and then we can do a street view and kind of explore. But sometimes it's changing the content totally. So for example, if it's English speakers, you might teach them Facebook, but with a Russian speaking group, there's not a lot of interest in Facebook. They might prefer to learn Skype, to work on Skype, because that's used frequently to stay in touch. So sometimes it's completely substituting one app or one subject for another one.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Josie. And so for example, even for apps that we teach, sometimes we have to tailor, like choose the specific apps, because the app for the English group is only available in English, and or website that is only available in English, and we will have to find a substitute, a different apps. For example, streaming apps, like some shows that shows only in English, and when I teach that for a Chinese community, I actually have to find an equivalent app to teach for the same topic. But it's a totally different app that they will have to download and learn. Maybe for a photo editing app that they have, a very popular one for the Chinese community, and everyone wants to learn and how to use it. So we'll teach that instead.
I think another example that comes to mind is Google Translate. That doesn't fall into our basics curriculum for the English speaking classes, but certainly in any of the non-English classes, I would say that's always a fundamental skill that we work on.
Exactly.
We had a great question from an anonymous participant. Culturally relevant goes beyond language. So what other cultural factors do you find are important when you're considering how to be culturally inclusive in our classes? Who would like to speak to that? Sabrina, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I can get started. So age is also another thing, because for CTN, we don't only work with seniors, we work with adults of all ages. So we have learners age from 16, 18 to all the way to 90 something years old. So we of course have to design our curriculum or our topics based on the needs and interests of the different age groups, and also the familiarity with technology itself. So a lot of the younger generation or middle age, they are very familiar with touch screen on their smartphone, using that. So we don't usually have to teach that skill, like using the touch screen, but versus for if you're working with a group of seniors, yeah, they may not be so familiar with touchscreen. So the different topics too, depending on the age and their skill levels. So yeah, that's why I think a lot of times our curriculum has more information than a typical, maybe a curriculum, just because we know that if you're working with a group, chances are you will have people coming in with different skills level. So we want to be able to adjust and adapt to what the group's skills are and their levels.
And we also support those who have those who are disabled and have blind and low vision. Recently, we supported or led an event where we were distributing iPads and provided training to those who are low vision. So what we did was we pretty much made our curriculum booklet, which was provided with each device, larger. And we also made sure that we highlighted specifically within the training how to navigate to voice command, as well as ways in which we can make the font larger for those who have low vision or able to barely see their screen. But so making sure that we're also making sure that our programs are customized to support those with disabilities is very important.
And I'd like to add to that, where we also provide programs for caregivers. So the caregivers can also assist seniors with their needs, whether the disability, like Steph just mentioned, who have maybe vision impaired or even hard of hearing. We train these caretakers to be able to assist them, and then they also can come to classes with their senior and assist them there as well.
And kind of adding on to this, I know, Audrey, you said I know you teach in senior sites, but you also work at a lot of family sites.
Yes.
Are there any specific topics or resources that you make sure to include when you're working with the family-centered population?
Yes, we do have a curriculum that is focused on digital parenting, where well, I've personally taught because I still instruct. So, and I do enjoy that. Where we have resources called, one in particular I enjoy, it's called icanhelp.net, which educates and empowers students and educators to promote good use of technology and make positive impacts within their community and it helps them to become more inspirational digital citizens to prevent cyberbullying and other types of abuse too. We have commonsensemedia.org and digitalparentingcoach.org as well that we share with our family groups.
Yeah, those resources are really important if you're working with parents or maybe grandparents responsible for childcare. It's a great way of we're maybe not interacting directly with the children, but by informing the parents, we can help them be more engaged in their own children's lives and making sure they're safe online.
Right. And being aware, being sensitive to other cultures too, teaching the children at a young age, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've just got to find it again. I really liked Lyle's question. He was saying they struggle with balancing sharing the benefits of online life with the dangers. So if any of us could speak to strategies to make sure we're addressing the concerns, but also encouraging new users to engage online. Especially, how does this play out possibly between different cultural levels?
Okay, again, I can start, I think. I always tell my learners, learning technology, or if it's their first time to, try to use technology, can be scary. And but I usually compare it to like learning how to drive a car. There's always sometimes accidents could happen when you drive a car, but you just have to learn the safety, or how to stay safe on the road. Same thing for using the internet, and that's why I think internet safety is very big part of our curriculum, is how to not only teach our learners how to use it, but how to stay safe. Using all these tools. So yeah, once they hear about, okay, yes, they have to realize or be aware that there is some risk involved always using technology, but then as long as they learn how to stay safe, they will be fine. So yeah, that's the comparison that I always use. And yeah, we teach different topics along internet safety, and also we recently developed like a workshop series, like kind of beyond the basics and on the internet safety side, and it's like a workshop series of workshops that people can come to if they want to learn more about like cybersecurity. So I think those are really good resources that our learners can keep coming to our training even after they graduate or completed the basic training, because technologies, evolve so fast, and something that you learned last year, it may be totally changed already this year, and you have to keep up with it to stay safe yourself.
I'm just thinking of that driving analogy, and I think of my mom. She drives, but she's not comfortable driving in big cities, and she doesn't love driving at night. So it's sort of the same thing with the internet. You might decide, online banking, it scares me. I don't want to do it. And that's okay. You can still take advantage of what's helpful for you.
I'd love to add something to this too, and that is just to impress upon everyone that yes, of course we cover internet safety, but moreover, we are encouraging our trainers to teach good digital citizenship. So an understanding of the lasting effects of your activity online, and understanding that yes, these scary things do exist, but if you operate in a responsible fashion, you can largely avoid some of those really scary things. So kind of removing that the heaviness of that fear factor, if you will, and still impressing upon them the importance of safe activity and safe surfing, if you will, but teaching that impactful, the good behavior or good citizenship is beneficial.
Thank you, Skye.
With
I think at
that,
this
I mean,
point, yeah.
yeah, I'm going
Go
to
ahead,
just
Becca.
insert myself as the time checker and the bad guy to end this wonderful discussion, just out of respect for everyone's time, and also so that we can move on to some free giveaways of the courses. Before we do that, though, I do very much want to thank our panel, Sabrina Tam, Steph Miner, Audrey Potts. I also want to thank Josie Boyle, who offered to co-pilot this, but as you can see, has a lot of extensive cultural teaching experience also. And before I turn it back to Skye for the raffle, let me just explain a couple more things very quickly. I'm going to share my screen one last time. Here is the course that we're giving away in the raffle. We're giving away Adult Learning Principles. This is a $100 value. As you can see in that menu on the left-hand side, it covers a lot of core principles that are involved when teaching adults versus teaching young folks. And I realize that this is a culturally inclusive panel, but we touch on that in this course, not just how adults learn, but how cultures and paradigms and assumptions and belief systems affect how we learn. So that is a little more information about the course that we're giving away. If you're not lucky enough to win the raffle, you can still take the course. One last heads up, if you are enjoying these webinars, here's what we're doing in March. Josie's actually going to put the registration link over in the chat so that you can go ahead and sign up and get it on your calendar. We mentioned today, several of you mentioned actually, that, hey, technology even moves so quickly that it enters cultural conversations. Well, guess what? It's affecting all of us because we're going to tackle AI and digital inclusion next time with a special speaker from the Austin Urban Technology Movement. That will also be co-hosted by myself and by Zandy Wright of Right to Learn. We're going to dive into how do we approach AI when developing curriculum at many levels. So it could be K through 12, it could be programmatic curriculum, it could be digital equity in curriculum, because obviously we're going to talk about how AI affects digital inclusion. So heads up for next time. Thank you. We got some great comments in the chat. I just want to have this slide up for 1 second in case you do want to follow up with our team. That's our email address, lift@communitytechwork.org. If anything comes up after this and you want to ask some of those needs assessment questions to our team or anything else, please do reach out. And with that, let's give some stuff away. We got 3 minutes. Here we go, Skye.
Awesome. Let me see if I can share my screen. We're going to do this official. All right. I have done my very best to make sure that all of your names are on this list. You do have to be present to win, so please do hang on with us. I think we had a total of 78 people on this call today and over 200 registrants. So I'm going to go ahead and draw several names. So hang tight if your name isn't called the first time. Let's go ahead and grab the first one. Drum roll, please. Our first winner is Brittany Watson. Brittany Watson, are you on the call still? Raise your hand, somebody acknowledge to me, and then I can. Do we see Brittany?
I don't see Brittany. Keep going.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go again. Let's pick a new name. Uh-oh. What just happened? Hold on. There we go. Let's draw again.
I do see Brittany Watson in the participant list.
Okay, great. Melissa Kukesh, is that right? Melissa, are you on the call with us still? And Brittany, if you're on the call with us, go ahead and acknowledge in the chat that you all are here to claim your prize. Okay, I'm going to do another one. Dina, Dina Lemon Kim from Connect Home USA.
Yes. Hi.
Yay!
Oh my God, I never win anything. This is crazy.
You won.
What? Let me go off camera. Oh wait, I don't think I can. Oh yes, I can. Yay!
Yay! All right, did we hear from the first two in the chat, or did we see them here?
You know what? I'm not seeing them. So Skye, let's do 2 more.
Okay. Albert Chang.
Hello,
Oh,
I'm here.
yay!
Thank you.
Wonderful. The next big winner. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And Kimberly Chu. Kimberly Chu, are you with us? Going once, going twice. One more?
One more.
Okay. Sandra Miller, you are the last big winner today. We will contact all of you via email.
I am here.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, Becca, go ahead. You can announce how we'll get in touch with them. Thank you so much, y'all. Congratulations.
Well, we will follow up with all of you via the email that you registered with. That will probably happen. If it doesn't happen today, everyone, it will happen tomorrow. And you will receive an email follow-up from me and our team, and you'll get your enrollment started immediately. For everyone else, we will follow up with the video, and as requested, we will include those links to the resources that we were putting in the chat and that we collected for you all. A big thanks to everyone. Happy Leap Day. And have a great week. Thank you so much for joining us.
Also, we'll scan the chat to make sure we didn't miss any questions, and we'll email you, or feel free to email us if we didn't get to your question. LIFT team, can you stay on the call with me for just a minute?
Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Skye, let's hop off because this is recording.
Oh, you can stop recording. Yeah.
I just wanted to say how wonderful that was. I'm really impressed. What a great